What's up, guys? It is the Loper Show, and man, I'm really excited to bring you one of the most successful people in Columbus, man, Cory G.
Yo, what's good?
Cory Gregory,
Glad to
man.
be here,
What's
baby.
up, bro?
If you think that about me, I'll take it, Loper. That's good.
Dude,
But
I mean, well, let's jump right into it, man. Like, when I met you, you were the president of Muscle Pharm, which was one of the most successful supplement companies in the entire world, like ever. I mean, sponsored the absolute most famous UFC fighters.
Yep.
The champions, Anderson Silva. I mean, we don't even need to do the list, but
Yeah.
I mean,
it was all of them.
You went from that, and now you have your own company, Max Effort, and it was so cool to watch you build this.
Yeah.
Because when you left Muscle Pharm, obviously a lot of people were like, man, what's he going to do now?
Well, and ironically, like Muscle Pharm was my own company too. I was one of the founders.
Yeah.
So like I've really never had another job except for ones I've created for myself. That one just happened to be the biggest one that people, mostly
Sure.
knew about. But what I started to realize is I started really to understand myself during that process, meaning that, look, it was cool to have all of that craziness going on, but the reality is it's not really me. And so I wanted to build a more like kind of like grimy, more like intimate business where I could actually see the people that I'm helping. Where that, I'm not saying it wasn't cool. It blew up and
Right.
it was huge, right? But it got to a point where I could just tell it really wasn't necessarily like having 100+ employees. That's just not really my jam, to be honest with you. So what I did was then say, okay, this had its run. This really ain't what I really want to do anymore. What do I want to do now? And I ask these questions to myself. How do I want to operate? What do I want to build? Why not me? Like, these are all questions I ask myself. And so then I started visualizing, like, where is my office at? Where do I drive to?
Yes.
Same type of thing with the island, right? Like, it's all of these things I'm always questioning. And then I just started building it, man. And
I love
in
that.
the last 10 years, and you're seeing what it's starting to turn into.
What you just said right there was so important, and it's something that I do every day in meditation. You know, like one of the questions that I ask myself in meditation every day is, who am I going to be today?
Yeah.
Who am I going to be? That means like, am I going to bring the absolute monster?
Sure.
Am I going to bring the beast? Am I just going to maybe just limp through it today? Who am I going to be today?
And
that was so important, like what you just said, because, that's really what it is. Like every single day, like when you get up and you look at yourself in the mirror, I mean, like when it comes to being successful, that's what it is. But
I just think about like, I think a lot of things, I grew up in that real blue collar, hardcore coal mining culture. And it's like, I know a lot of my family members didn't love what they did. Yeah. They worked hard, they provided, but they didn't love it.
Right.
A couple of them actually did. So that was cool to see too. But the reality was, if I could find something I really enjoy doing, there's going to be shit that you don't want to do. That comes with the territory, right?
Absolutely.
But the reality is, if I could apply that type of work ethic that I learned from working underground, just the 6 months I did, into the things that I love, and it actually impacts people on, on top of that, it's a wrap, dude. And for 25 years, I feel like it just looked a little different, but I was like, yo, I just want to lift weights, get paid, impact people. And that's really what I've been doing out here.
That's awesome. So where were you born at in Ohio?
I was born in the Ohio Valley. So it's like, I think the actual like hospital was like Wintersville, Ohio, but I'm from like that, Amsterdam, Carrollton, Cadiz, like Ohio Valley, which is right on the borderline of like West Virginia and PA. So like I'm a Steelers fan, because actually where I'm from in Ohio, you can drive across the Panhandle, West Virginia, and then be in Pittsburgh within an hour.
Gotcha.
So like
Clarksville area.
So it's like, it's Cadiz, Steubenville, Wintersville, like that whole area is where I'm from. So I grew up in the Valley.
So man, me too. Like right on the not in that area, but I was born in Portsmouth.
Okay, yeah,
Ohio.
I'm familiar with Portsmouth.
And I was kind of touched by something that you wrote for the kids at Marshall when you went down there.
Marshall's dope. Right?
I thought that was so cool, man. Like what you said to those kids was, look around you, embrace what you see.
Blue collar all over the place.
Blue collar, the coal mines, like the river, and what was. It brought this country to, such success.
For sure.
And a lot of people have forgotten about these cities.
Man, you drive down there and you see them loading coal still on the river down there. You see the steel, you see all that. And that's why I was like, I know a lot of you guys aren't from here, but you need to embody what this place is about.
Yeah.
You can feel it. Like I fuck with Marshall. It was cool.
Yeah. Huntington's a cool little spot.
Yeah.
So I was
never
on
been.
the radio in
been.
Huntington for like a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And it was interesting, man. Like, just going around. They had like 2 nightclubs. Mm-hmm. And like one, it was called like, man, this is like the early 2000s. People that are watching maybe remember it. It was called like Icon. And like they went hard, bro. Like I remember I hosted a party there. It went so hard. I was like, wow. And you just realize it. And you walk into these different businesses and people shout at you like, "Go Herd!"
Yeah, they love it.
I was like, "What is that?" And they're like, "Oh, it's the team." I was like, "Oh, Herd."
Yeah,
I got you. Yeah. I heard you. Okay, like what a cool little spot.
One of the craziest things that happened when I was there, Coach Beals, who's the baseball coach, he was the coach at Ohio State before. I met him when he was up there, so he had me come down and speak to the team, which I loved. They got brand new facilities, super dope. We walk across the street and we go to where the football stadium's at, and everybody's practicing. We walk in, and the guy that's showing us around, there's one guy and his wife sitting in the crowd all by himself, and he's like, "That's the guy that missed the plane." No, dead serious. In the 70s.
No kid. Oh, really?
The plane where everyone died.
Come on.
Swear to you. Says he comes to almost every practice. And I'm lost on his name. I can't remember it, but he said it quickly, and I looked it up, and it was like he was late.
Why?
He was late. He was late. He was late that day, and so 1970. I'll mess it up. You guys can look. 71,
right
72,
yeah, something like that.
Where every coach. So think about this man was late, and every coach, every player, all died that day.
That's so crazy.
And so he's still around the program, and so I got chills when I saw him sitting there. And then I was like, that's heavy.
Yeah.
But amazing too. And just to think like what, and they do a good job, I think, of keeping that like in the forefront. So Marshall was real cool. I had a great experience.
I forget the name of that movie that they did.
We Are Marshall.
We Are Marshall.
Because it was Matthew McConaughey, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So anyway, that gave me like a dose of that. And then just the culture of Marshall, yeah, it was a great
campus too. I mean, it really is. Yeah. So let's go back to the beginning, man. How do you start? Like, I mean, when did fitness and staying in shape and lifting weights like really become important to you?
Yeah, man. So what's cool about my family, like I said, multi-generational coal miners, but also lifters.
Really?
And so like when you walk in my gym right now, you go over to the chalk bowl, which is close to the deadlift platform, and that's actually part of my great-grandfather's barbell. So when the barbells were round on each side, I have actually one side of his barbell from the late 1800s, but he passed away in the 30s. Wow. And so I have like it's split, and I got half of it's the chalk bowl at old school, and half of it's
from the late 1800s?
Yeah, so I mean he came over from England, I think in the like late 1800s, early 1900s. He died in a coal mine explosion in the 1930s. But he was already teaching my grandfather how to lift weights when he was 9.
Wow.
And my grandfather lived to be 94, and he was the one that taught me how to lift weights. So it just like, it's so the hard work, the mining, but lifting was always that extra too. Plus my dad lifted weights, all the Italians on his side lifted weights. And so it's just one of those things where it was kind of always around. I remember my mom doing Jane Fonda records, bro. Like when I was a kid in the 80s, she was doing like actual like leg lifts, like aerobic type stuff on a record player, and then using our rolling pin that you would roll out like bread dough for an ab wheel.
Really?
When I was a kid. Yeah. So I remember I have these memories of my parents working out just like after they would come home from work. So it was just something that I remember. And then as I got older,
That's so important.
So important. And so, kids do what they see, not what you tell them, right? That's just how it is. And so I tried to live that same way as I got older. But I just remember they were, young, good-looking people that were in shape, and I just remember thinking like that was just something I remember. Right. And so my grandfather started me. My dad kind of split when I was like 11. My mom never really worked out a bunch then when I started getting a little bit older, but my grandfather was always heavy into it. He always lifted weights. He did construction. He did mining early, but he was too tall, so he didn't last very long under there. And his dad and his uncle both died in the mine, so he wasn't trying to stay there. And so he ended up in construction, but he would come home. When my dad split, we moved in with him when I was like 11 or 12. So he would come home from work every day and we would lift in the basement.
Oh, wow.
And I just remember thinking, like, he said these 3 things. Cory, it'll increase your confidence, It'll make you better at sports, and the girls like it too. I was like, yo, sign me up.
So right.
Sign me up,
right.
Papa. Yeah, I'm in.
The confidence angle of it is like what I try to stress to my boys. Like even my I have 2 boys, 2 girls, but like to all of my kids. Like when you go to the gym. It's that feeling of like, oh God, not today. Like I can't do it today. Oh, it sucks. And then you go in there and you just like talk to that inner bitch and you're like, pipe down.
Yeah.
I'm coming out.
No one comes
the
out.
coming out.
No one comes out saying, I wish I didn't do that.
Exactly.
You just never.
You go in saying it all the time though. And that's
For sure.
I think that's like one of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to like, people see you online and you're in such great shape, and people say like, man, like I wish I had that drive.
Yeah.
That drive is saying goodbye to the person inside that's saying you can't do it.
Yeah.
That's
every
really
day,
what
just
it is,
fight,
right?
just fighting through that. Early on, I fell in love with it, and I'll tell you why. Because I knew that it was something I felt out like the first year or so. I was like, if I just started understanding the consistency part. I was like, wait, I'm getting better if I just keep showing up. This doesn't have anything to do with school, which I wasn't very good at. This doesn't have anything to do with sports, which I was like okay at. Yes. I was like, this has to do with me just applying work and consistency. And then, there's no internet then. So I'm like reading muscle magazines. I'm reading about Arnold. I'm reading up. So I started seeing a little definition, and I got hooked, man. And I loved the way that I felt. And so I don't know. When it came down to it, it's like the only thing I like to do. Yeah. I didn't even know there was an actual job. I thought I was going to be a gym teacher. I figure I graduated high school in 97, bro. I never met anybody in the middle of the country that had a job showing people how to lift weights. Like it was a fictitious job.
That is crazy. I graduated in 98.
Yeah. Who did that?
When you look back, exactly.
It was a fictitious job that only was in California. Mm-hmm. That's the way I viewed it.
You look at Muscle Beach, right? That's one of your idols, Arnold.
Yeah. So that's the only thing I thought like, oh, okay, well, my buddies were coming up here to go to Ohio State. I was out of the coal mine, and I was like, maybe I can go up there. And I found a program at Columbus State that had a 1 year, which for me, I was never going to make it through 4 years. I got a 13 on my ACT. I was a 2.1 student, bro. Like that was not for me. So I was like, I could essentially learn the trade in a year here and maybe see if it's possible. I mean, I came here really thinking that. Like I had no clue.
No, that's awesome, man. And that's what I did. Like with karate. Karate taught me how to do radio. Mm-hmm. That's what I always tell people is like, I applied the same just absolute thirst for knowledge that I had for martial arts, and I applied that to radio. And one of the guys that originally put me on the radio, John O'Connell, he goes, if you stop giving, because I would go into the production studio, like where they made commercials, and I would make like fake tapes, like I was on the radio. I would play the end of the song, and then I would start talking, and then I would talk into the next song or whatever. And I would give this guy so many tapes every week. He goes, if you just stop, I'll put you on. You know what I mean?
To make actual radio.
Yeah. That's cool. He goes, I'll just put you on the radio. He goes, just please stop. And so he put me on like in the middle of the night. And I graduated 6 months ahead of my class in 12th grade, which was the first time I didn't go to summer school in all of high school. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, because I was motivated. My point is like when you have something that you're motivated, and that's what I think a lot of people, when they go to college or they get out of high school, they start thinking like, what am I going to do? Like even after high school, like they have no idea what to do. It's that motivation inside that drives people.
Well, it's the only thing I like to do. I just didn't know if it could actually be a job.
Sure.
So there was a lot of uncertainty, but here's the one thing I'll tell you, like, a lot of people talk about having fallback plans and all this. I already essentially for 6 months lived the life I was probably supposed to have, meaning like working underground, doubles, this, that, whatever. And I was good at it and I wasn't scared of it. Like, so I could have done it. And so now that, the mine shut 10 years later, then they moved to another one. Like I saw what ended up happening by some of the guys that stayed.
Yeah.
And some of them was more than fine. Like they ended up becoming bosses, making good money, whatever. But I just wanted a chance to say like, I know I can do that. So if this doesn't work, I've already lived that life. I can just go back and do that. So I didn't really like move forward how a lot of people are moving forward scared. I move forward like what happens if this actually works.
Right.
And then it started working. And then when I started, then it was just a numbers game. Okay, Irene paid me $20 to show her bicep curls. I need 20 Irenes. Like, let's get it. You know what I mean? And really, a lot of people know me as the dude that's on social media. But from 99 till 2008, I just built a personal training business in Reynoldsburg on the east side of Columbus. Like that's it.
And how many clients did you have?
About 35 or 40 on a regular basis.
Wow.
And so I built, a 6-figure business like in my little studio that, I think the biggest one might have been 1,500 square feet. And I was just in here trying to be like, I always try to focus on like, how can I be good in my city first?
Right.
Not trying to be international Cory Gregory.
Sure.
Right? I was like, how can my craft be good here? Can I survive here? And then we'll move from that point on. But yeah, that's what I just focused on that the first like 8 or 10 years, which is a blessing because then when social media started popping, I was already a confident person in my craft.
Yeah.
So then when it became to audio, visual, workouts, right, whatever, I was like ready to go because I've been working on this material for a long time.
Yeah, people that are our age, we just hit that sweet spot where
a little bit of both, man.
A little bit of the old world, a little bit of the new world. We were able to do social media.
Yes.
We get it. You know what I mean? But I feel like people that are just even like 5 years older than us, they drown. It's a tough world, man.
Having a little bit of both, I think, is really key. And so, because I know what it was to go to like local breakfast meetings here to try to get referrals so I could get new clients. Right. They wasn't coming to me on the internet. You know what I'm saying?
That's so funny. Yeah.
So like I was out here like at these breakfast meetings at Panera. Going, hey, I'm the personal trainer in this town, and you're the lawyer, and you're the hairdresser, and like old school like referrals, and that's how I built a lot of my business. And I'm proud of that because then I like don't take it for granted when I can get clients all over the world now.
Right,
it's wild.
It's so cool, man.
Yeah.
So we met at Westside Barbell.
Yep.
And you were in the middle of competing at the time. But take me back, man. So like you have these clients, you have 30, 40 people a week, and then where does it go from there?
Then in 2006, I met Dr. Eric Serrano right when I was about 20 years old.
Yeah.
So Dr. Serrano, who a lot of people that aren't in the culture, right, don't realize that he's like a genius.
Right.
And especially in
Great
sports and nutrition. Great guy. Amazing. For how smart he is, he's so outgoing. It's like he's not awkward at all. He's hilarious. And so Serrano I think I met him when I was like 20, 21.
Okay.
And because I had never taken drugs, I was always drug free. I was always super interested in supplementation and diet. And so he's like literally a genius in that field. And so I would basically just kept showing up to his office because he was an MD locally. By the like third, fourth time, he finally was like, what do you want? And I was literally like, yo, I think we need to be friends. Like, I want to learn. And he's just like, whatever. So I call my Puerto Rican dad. He's been helping me for years. I don't lean on him too much nowadays, but first like 10 years of my career, he helped me a ton.
Yeah.
And so, he's the one that introduced me to some of the conjugate methods. He's the one that introduced me to Mario Di Pasquale for the high fat loading, for like, so he really like helped my education, a true mentor that like elevated my education. But it's because I was so disciplined, he could say, Cory, I want you to do this, this, and this. And then I would bring it back and say, this is what happened, doc. I ate this. So I was like almost like a test subject to try to get for a guy that does not take drugs to get drug-like effects.
Yeah.
And it was fun, man. I learned so much early in my career. And then, about 2006, I started messing around. I wanted to create my own protein powder. I was selling a decent amount of supplements within my gym and studio. And I was like, man, I think I could do this myself. I really couldn't figure it out. I didn't have enough money. I didn't have enough resources. And then 2008, I met what would be then the other founder of Muscle Pharm, and then he had some of the pieces I didn't have, and I had some of the pieces he didn't have, and that's when we started Muscle Pharm.
Like, what do? You go in a lab? I mean, do you hire like a scientist? How do you make your own protein powder?
No, he had people that were having similar, similar attributes as Dr. Serrano in his network.
Okay.
And then I had Dr. Serrano in my network, and then it's like basically you come up with these ideas. You have people that can validate them, and then you send them to a manufacturer. Then they approve them, and then you can get the process going. Okay. So, but the barrier to entry is much different now than it was 2008. Way harder to find somebody to. I mean, just to even create one product would have been probably like 20 racks or something at least back then.
Right.
It's just a lot different nowadays.
And so how do you take that and so you create your own protein powder, you create your own supplement, and then how do you take that to like GNC or like one of these stores back in the day? Even 2006, 2007, there wasn't a lot of like buying on the internet. I mean, people,
there's like
a little bit, but not very much.
Yeah, that really didn't start popping off till like 10, 11, 12.
Right.
Our early stuff was... we had a bite from GNC Canada originally, and then it kind of fell through. So we almost lost the business right out the gate. We had pallets of product I thought was going in the store and it didn't work. And then, I was going through that. I remember this like almost dead on. Like we was going through the process and all of a sudden we needed like some insurance that cost like $8,000-9,000. We didn't know. And then like, it was like all of these things,
right.
just like any
just
other
when you
business.
Think you're there. You're like, what?
You're like, wait, I need this just in case, you know what I mean? And so there was a lot of like missteps in the early part of the process, but we started getting a little bit of traction on the internet. Once again, the timing, like I think we started like late 08, 09, we started getting some traction. UFC 96 was our first person that we sponsored, Shane Carwin. Actually, it was the Columbus.
Is that who it was?
It was the Columbus card, actually. And that kind of started that process. And yeah, like 2010, we started getting some traction on the internet. Bodybuilding.com was where we really started popping originally. We did some small gyms and some other stuff, but bodybuilding.com is what I believe made
you just took me back.
MP.
Bodybuilding.com.
I mean,
that's be on that like every day, guys.
If bodybuilding.com didn't exist, I'd be hard pressed to think that Muscle Pharm would have grown like it did. And I definitely personally, because all of my programs, I mean, they were getting consumed by millions of people worldwide on bodybuilding.com. I remember I did my first like major trainer there. It was called the Get Swole Trainer. And I had a meeting with bodybuilding.com. They're like, gee, like you had 28 million page views on this thing this month. Yeah. And then I do squat every day, 60 million page views. Then I write the blueprint with Arnold, interview him, put it together. It's like 100, like it was an absurd amount of people that were following my programs that people don't really understand. I understand because I saw the analytics. It's crazy.
That is crazy.
All stuff that I had created, like literally lifting like cement weights in my trailer, in my buddy's basement, you know, in the original old schools, learning from guys like Tony Ramos and guys from guys from Westside, and then Arnold himself, and in all this studying. And you know, I competed bodybuilding and powerlifting back and forth every quarter. So like I'm a person that stayed active from like the time I came into Columbus. I competed in my first bodybuilding show when I was 20, first powerlifting meet when I was 17. I've competed in multiple of both every year all the way till 2 years ago. Yeah. So I've done 30 meets, probably 15 bodybuilding shows, 13 covers of magazines. Like I've stayed active this entire time. Every quarter I was always getting ready for something, you know, pushing myself, retrying the protocols. And so like I've just one big science project, bro. And I've just then been teaching people this whole time, you know, and for that probably 5-year period, I had a lot of people worldwide that were doing my stuff. It was cool.
Yeah, man, it was really cool. I mean, I remember all the guys at Westside talking about you, you know, saying like, you know, what kind of drive you had and motivation. And then we met, and I had you on the radio show a bunch, and like it was really fun, man. Like those times, like, you know, like 10 years ago, guys, like we're going back, you know.
Yeah.
No, but it was like I feel like a really special time to even be at Westside.
Yeah.
You know, like I remember lifting and like looking out the door, and like there was this face looking in, and I'm like, is that fucking Usain Bolt?
Yeah.
And here's Usain Bolt looking in
coming to Westside.
Yeah, to come to see what Louis has cooked up, you know, this year. You know,
Louis
what kind of equipment.
What his body of work was just, that's why it's legendary. It's unbelievable. Like he really showed me, like by just what he built, like the process, right? When I got in, I'm one of the only people on the planet, I think I can claim this, is that I learned actually from Arnold Schwarzenegger personally, and from Louis to a degree, because Louis spent time with me. Like we would go out to lunch and I'd get to ask him a bunch of questions. And then like, I was never a full-time member of Westside. I always like to say that, but they let me come there enough over a decade to learn. Mm-hmm. And when I was competing, Ramos and George and those guys would always help me. And shout out Mike Wolf, rest in peace. Mike is like, those guys helped me so much. And AJ and Panora, like all those like heavy hitters, bro. They knew that I was never going to be as strong as them, but they knew I fucking loved it, and I wasn't scared to get under weights. And so they would always take time, including Louis, to help me. So it's like I got a chance to like really see what both those worlds were. And Louis showed that, you know, it was like unapologetic to the fucking most 100,000th degree. This is how I operate.
Yes.
If you want to fuck with me, it's at this gym.
Yes.
And exactly. I fucking love that. And he built that whole thing around his love for powerlifting and all of these things that came that then ended up being good income producing things were because of how deep the like love for that was. I fucked with that whole thing. And then on this side, I got a chance to be around Arnold and see that there's absolute no fucking ceiling like with this dude. Like it's unbelievable what his body of work was and what he accomplished. And so I would come back from LA going, questioning myself, like, I'm not dreaming big enough.
Right.
Like, what? Like, I'm watching this dude in his 70s or late 60s still fucking crush
Just
it.
killing it.
And then
yeah.
on this side, you got to remember, I'm watching Louis go through his final kind of prep phase for the last meet that he did at 63, I think he was. He goes 805, 455, 675, I think, or something like that. Crushes it at 63 years old. And then on this side, I'm getting a chance to be around who was my, initial idol. I'm watching that happen, and I'm just like, bro, this is like some legendary type of shit that I'm witnessing in person. Bro, you ain't never the same after you're around that.
Yeah. And to watch you take all of that, from the competition and everything. And by the way, what was your deadlift PR like when you were competing?
My best pull is 575 at 198. I pulled
at 198.
Yeah,
nice.
I pulled.
Yes.
I just squatted 2 years ago. I squatted 694 at 181 Masters.
No shit.
Mm-hmm.
That's
694.
Awesome. So are you done competing?
As of right now, but my youngest, who's in 8th grade, my youngest boy, he's getting the fever. My oldest boy, who's a sophomore in college, he competed as a junior in high school, so that was really cool. Like wrapping your kid's knees for a big squat. Yes. Like, and being in that mentality was so sick. Yes. My youngest one though, like if he wants to compete, I'll probably do something with him. But as of now, I'm good. It's like, it's the risk versus reward, right?
Yeah.
Like the one thing about me is I really wasn't that great of a lifter. I was just like better than average, but I outlasted people at the point where then when I made that 694, that was a number 2 all time drug tested. And so I'm super proud of that because, at 181, 44 years old, and I did a bodybuilding show the day before. See,
no shit, really?
I competed. Yeah.
People don't understand like what that's about. You got to make weight for bodybuilding, and like people are on the brink of death right before you pose down.
So I did a bodybuilding show the day before in let me see, that was like in the Cleveland area, and then the next day we competed in powerlifting in Dayton at Larry's meet, and it was then I went 694 like. I had a shoulder injury, so I think I benched like 330 some, and then I pulled like 510 or something.
So what'd you weigh at the bodybuilding event?
I was in the high 170s, and then I
what'd you
bloated
weigh
up
the next day?
Well, I mean, so I had to. The way it worked is I had to go to Dayton and weigh in 24 hours. So I was at Dayton the night before, weighed in at under 181, drove home to Columbus, slept, got up, went and did the bodybuilding show, and then the next day went and competed in powerlifting. Yeah.
Wow.
That's pretty crazy.
That is crazy, man. One guy that's been with you forever is Dustin Myers.
Yeah.
We
went to high school together.
Yeah, I think it says a lot about you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was been cool because Dustin and I became, so our schools consolidated. So we didn't meet each other till we were sophomores.
Okay.
But we were both non-football players that lifted weights. So he was mostly in wrestling, and I played basketball. And so I had played football earlier, but then I kind of gave it up and just was lifting weights. And so we had that in common. And then we were very similar in strength. And so when we connected, man, we was battling, and it was great for both of us. And, we did our first powerlifting competition together when we were 17. And I remember us just shooting the shit thinking, man, like if we could do this like as our job, because I was already starting to think about those things. And Dustin went to school here at Ohio State, got his education degree. He was going to be a teacher. And when he got done, I was already in the business for 3-4 years. And I was like, D, I think you need to jump in here with this, man, and let's build something. And he's done a great job because he really has his own lane. He's by far the best strength coach that's within wrestling and some combat sports. Like he's world renowned for that.
I mean, the Ohio State wrestling team, it kind of says it all. Like
he was the strength coach when they won their
Lance
chip.
Palmer, like Kyle Snyder, all of those guys.
So Dustin has built an amazing career based on being really the guy when it comes to that. I mean, he's got a national championship with Ohio State. It's the only one they've won in wrestling, and he was a strength coach during that time. So I couldn't have been more proud. I remember seeing him on ESPN when they won that chip, and I was just like, this is crazy because this is my high school friend.
Totally.
And so that is kind of cool that we can own the gym together, and we have our separate lanes and businesses, but have an old school gym, which I think we started in 03. So, it's over 20 years old. So it's pretty
wow. Wild. Okay.
Yeah.
I've been to the gym, your gym's phenomenal. And the new place is like even better than the, obviously than the older place, but you have everything out there. Like what do you foresee in your future? I mean, like you've done so much, with supplements, and obviously with Max Effort now,
Yep.
you guys are sponsoring not only like MMA athletes, but athletes from all different sports.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, what do you see as your future?
Well, really with Max Effort, it's now more of like driving, even like what you were at with the Muscle Island event. That was really our community. That was like our first big event where like if you get 3 supplements every month, like on your subscription or your membership, and we always have like dope swag that goes out, it's like you can come to in-person events. After COVID, I think people really wanting to get back out.
Yeah.
And everything that I do is private. So like the gym you can't join.
Right.
It's not open to the public, very Westside-ish, right? I got that from Louis. Like I just took that from Louis.
Yep.
And it's like now, and then as I was had kind of taken on the project out of Buckeye Lake, I was like, man, if I could just have events where people could look forward and be inspired by, that could also drive their results for them to stay on their diet plan. And that was like, I kind of reimagined that business. And so now Max Effort Muscle, not only is it a supplement brand, but now the community is even growing more because now they're starting to know each other.
Yes.
Dude's driving from Michigan.
That's cool, man.
Courtney driving from Florida, and coming up, and they're like coming to the gym. Like the last event we had was, the gym was like 9 to 12, and everybody, a lot of people, they're in the video. They're used to watching the video. Now they're in the video.
Right.
You know how it is, and it feels different. And then, we had a little break in the day, and then we had the island event where, Morgan was out there, and I had my family and the friends, and like we had the boats bringing everybody out to Muscle Island.
Dude, that was so fun. By the way,
fun.
I want to open the bag real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I got a little present, guys. Look at this.
Got the Muscle Island swag.
Look at this. This is sick.
Got you a tank top.
Hell
for the
yeah.
summertime.
I'll be wearing that.
And then we got.
Oh, this is so.
Yeah, we got you the
this is
Endure,
exactly
which is
what I
the new
needed.
hydration. We got you
Dude,
s'mores protein.
Love that.
And then I threw you in there some pre-workout, I'm pretty sure.
Boom.
So this is a good example of
Yes,
like.
look at this. It's Christmas.
So that's a good example of like what the package would be that somebody would get for their subscription. They get 3 products, some cool swag, but then you do that every month. We have 4, 5, 6 events during the year that you can look forward to coming and meeting like-minded people. And so that right there is what I'm the most excited about building.
Well, let's tell people, Muscle Island, guys. Yep. Okay, so I just got back from Nashville. Mm-hmm. I just moved back to Columbus. And, all my friends, they're like, oh, yeah, Cory's having a party. He bought an island. I was like, what? Cory bought an island? I was like, oh, I've been gone a year. I was like, that man bought an island? An island in Ohio?
Hey, I'm not going to lie. That shit sounds wild to say out loud. I almost feel like a dick whenever I'm saying. I'm not even trying to be. When I'll be like, well, I bought this property up off the lake. Like, it feels weird to be like, yo, come to my island.
It was crazy.
Yeah, I want to give you some context, though, because when I moved here first, right, you hear about Schottensteins, the Wolf,
sure.
Dave Thompson. You hear about all these like legendary families, right? And you got to remember, like, the generational change is my whole vibe. Like, I want to be that guy, like for my family. And so I never really spent that much time at Buckeye Lake, but I was aware of what was happening, that Wolves have an island out there that they said, like, you go, I've never been on the actual island, but I can see it from mine. It's like, they said most of the people that the pictures are, their streets are named after down here. It was like the real ones from like early Columbus, right? Because they owned that for 100 years. Then you go on the other side of that, and Dave Thomas has his island there. And there's multiple from the Schottensteins and these real estate people, like, they own all this stuff out there. So they've been going out there for years because it's like the oldest lake in Ohio. And so it's got like mad history. And so I always used to think like that's like a legacy piece, right? And I never owned a boat. I've never water skied before. I can barely fucking swim. So like this isn't like, it wasn't like I was some like big yachter or some shit and all of a sudden I want to, none of that. Literally was on Zillow looking for a fixer-upper at the lake to take my family to because I live 20 minutes from there.
Yeah.
I've been on the lake one time.
Really?
Previous to this.
That's crazy.
Never was out there hanging out.
And this is like a legit island, guys. Like, you have no idea. So you've only been out there one time before buying it.
And so I went out. I saw it on Zillow. I called Dustin's wife, Julie. She's a realtor. I was like, yo, can you see if this is real? Like, is there really any islands left? I had no clue.
Right.
Literally. And so I did a bunch of research. I went out. You could see it from another island that you can drive to. I went out and I was like looking at it. I was like, man, this looks like a lot of fucking work.
Yeah.
And then I'm reading there's no utilities.
Right.
There's no there's nothing.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking like, am I going to be off the grid? Like catching water on my house so I can drink it. Like, I don't know what I'm about to do.
You got to run electric and all that stuff.
Under the water, all kinds of crazy shit.
Wow.
And so I get into this. I start getting obsessed. So this is the 3-day window that changed everything. Day one, I drive out. I see it just looks like a bunch of fucking trees. And I'm like, I don't know. Day two, Brian Peters, shout out Brian Peters, and Jake Emery. Jake's the one that helped me a lot with the utilities. They're just in the office hanging out. Brian played in the NFL, was a Picktown legend. He was actually a captain for the Texans whenever J.J. Watt and stuff was there for the special teams.
Shit.
Like,
wow.
He's a freak. Anyway, so he's sitting there, and Jake's the one that does a lot of construction. I'm like, yo, think about buying this island, man. Like, I need to go out there and like drive around it in a boat. I've never been on a boat.
Yeah.
He goes, well, my family has a boat out there. You want to go? I'm like, yeah, like right now? He's like, yeah. Literally, an hour later, we're on a boat. Me, Jake, and Brian driving around the fucking island. And I'm like, okay. I was like, my ass for real have an island? So I started thinking about it for real.
Yeah.
The next day, I call my insurance agent because I know Stacy, she got a place out there. I'm like, yo, I need to stand on it. And the reason why I need to stand on it, I need to feel if it's like, this thing's real, bro.
Yeah.
And so she drives us out. My wife jumps in right at the end because she's like, all right, he's getting obsessed about this. I should probably check on this real quick.
Cory's buying an island.
Yeah. What's happening out here? I better tag along for this. So we get out there, and she anchors, and I, swim over and I stand on it. I swear to you, Loper.
Wait, you swam over?
Yeah, I swam over to it. I stood up on it, and I was like, I walked right where my dock is right now, right where you pulled up, same spot I walked through. Huge ass trees. I got a picture. My wife took it. I'm standing there, and it's like, looks like a fucking jungle, and you can just see right where you guys came in for the party is exactly where I got on the island at. I climb up on there. I walk through under the canopy, and it's just, you can barely walk. It's just vines and trees everywhere because it hadn't been touched since the late 1800s when they created the lake, man-made. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm just like, and I just felt it. I was like, this is me. This is it.
Oh, shit.
Everything in my power till somebody tells me no, or I can't handle it financially, this is fucking mine.
So you go out there and you clear the land.
Yeah, it took us months. I just took like a bunch of like high school and college kids and threw them on my boat. And we just took out weed eaters and fucking hedge trimmers.
Really?
Yeah.
That's wild.
Did that for months, just going out there, chainsaws, like, because you couldn't get no equipment on it. There's just down trees.
Because I remember seeing you on social media when I was in Nashville, and I was like, what the fuck is he doing? I'm like, did he just like buy like a vacation property?
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, why did he hire somebody to do that? And then at the end, I came back and like literally we pull up on this island, and you have this beautiful home that you've built out of containers.
Shipping containers.
Yeah, shipping containers.
Watch too many Netflix shows, man.
No, but legit, like I would be like, oh, that sounds like super bunk. Like that's not going to be nice. You walk in, it's fucking beautiful.
No, it's unreal. I hooked up with the Box Hop, which is a local company, which I didn't know. So
the Box Hop.
Yeah, so they own this big property down at Hocking Hills where there's like 6 or 8 of these houses and a wedding venue, but they all own them. They're like a huge Airbnb
and it's
situation.
all like shipping containers.
Yeah, all shipping containers, and they own them. So they've never built one for anyone else. So I messaged him on Instagram, and I had heard he lived in Granville, but I had never met him. And so I just messaged him like, yo, I just bought this island. Like, would you want to build one of these on there? And he hit me back and was like, hey, this is interesting. He's like, I'll swing by the gym. Next day he came and saw me. We did a handshake, and we was off to the races, man. And then I
love how you do everything local. You know what I mean? Like here in Columbus, like, you keep it Columbus, like it's so important to the people that are here. Like people that are not 614, they might not understand that to the level that we're talking about right now. But like the things that you've done to keep it local, it's really admirable.
What's crazy is, Loper, when I was standing there and I made that decision, I also knew I wasn't going to be able to build a traditional house. So I was thinking I would get an opportunity to build one of these shipping container houses like I seen on TV. All of that in that moment was coming to me.
Wow.
And I was thinking like, this is about to be like a legacy piece where when people go out and be like, oh yeah, that's their island or this island, I want them to think the same shit about Muscle Island. Like, oh, that's that. And around the lake, I'm like that bodybuilder that bought the island, right? Yeah. So it's like, to me now, it can be a place where my kids' kids, I had that conversation with my son. I'm like, I'm not interested in selling this. This is some shit that's going to go multi-generation to create wealth in our family, but it create experiences. And so like what I'm trying to do is also create experiences. Yes. So that's where you'll see right at the top of that is results, lifestyle experience, right on the top of that protein. Like, and that's what we're building on the other side. Flip it around. Well, yeah, you can see it. So it's results, lifestyle experience. And so that's the experience part is what people look forward to.
Yeah.
And so when you came out that night, it was an experience.
It was an experience.
And that was the plan. And so that's what I'm building it for. That's what I built it for. But seeing the things that's why I have this tattooed on my arm. To believe in things you can see and touch is no belief at all. but to believe in unseen is a triumph and a blessing. That's Abraham Lincoln. Like, to take something from my mind and then make it become real. And when it exceeds expectations, bro, it's wild. Yeah. And that's what that night was.
Yeah, that was so fun. I mean, like, we were all out there. You know, it was a lot of people that I knew, you know, through the fitness
Lifting
community
world,
and lifting world, and like, you know,
having Matt Brown, Tony Ramos, like some fucking killers out there, man. It was cool.
Yeah, I mean, it was so much fun, and you know, we just had a great time. But like, the whole time I was out there, I was like, I can't believe he fucking did this. You know, take me back to the moment that you met Arnold, because that had to be one of those life-changing moments. Because the people that don't realize, like, when we all go to the Arnold, the reason that I've met Arnold and I've actually been in some really cool situations is because of you.
Yeah.
And, you know,
and
like,
because he comes here every year.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know when I moved here, by the way.
The funniest thing, so the Arnold is a huge sports and fitness festival that happens here in Columbus for like 4 days each and every March. And I'll never forget, I forget what year it was, but my son, my oldest son, Jaden, was in high school. And, you know, like, I loved when he wrestled. You know, you were talking about when your son was competing. Like, that was the absolute joy of my life, you know, because I competed in martial arts my entire life. So when he wrestled, man, like, it was like, you know, going to those meets. I think I was more into it than he was at one point. But he was doing a jiu-jitsu competition at the Arnold and one of the AGCs, and Arnold came out. And here Arnold came walking on the mats.
Yeah. He goes to a lot of events, which is cool.
It was really funny because all the kids, like, it's not the same effect that Arnold has on us.
Yeah, it's different.
All the kids go, I can't believe this guy's walking on the mats with shoes.
Yeah.
I go, it's Arnold.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Let him do his thing. This
he
is
do whatever
his
he
event.
wants.
Yeah, but the kids were like, I cannot believe he's disrespecting the mats.
That's
I was
so
like, is
funny.
that what you have to say when Arnold
So
Schwarzenegger
funny.
walks out?
So funny.
But it's crazy, man. Like, you know, the event of the Arnold, you know, even like Rock on the Range, Sonic Temple, you know, the biggest festivals that I've ever been to, Woodstock, you know, you say it, right? There's nothing like being in that supplement room at the Arnold when you're shoulder to shoulder. When the pandemic hit, the first thing I said was like, well, it actually hit during the Arnold.
Yeah,
but
they canceled it.
Yeah, the first thing I thought was, that's never going to happen again.
No.
You know what I mean? There's so many people that are there.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. So it's kind of wild is when I first moved here, and I met my wife probably 6 months after I moved here, which was my girlfriend at the time. She worked at Long's bookstore on campus, right?
Okay.
Taking it way back. So this is like when you actually went to go get your books.
Sure.
On Ohio State. And I remember her calling me, and she said, hey, Cory, I'm working with this guy. He's friends with the people that run the Arnold Classic. And I was like, I literally didn't even know what it was.
Yeah.
Because there's the internet, like, 98, 99, like, I'm not finding, it's not really happening. At least I didn't have enough money to be having the internet then.
Right.
And so she was like, there's a big trade show here and Arnold comes here. And I'm like, I literally find it out. I'm like, what? She's like, would you want to sell programs? And then you get free tickets. I'm like, hell yeah. Put me in. Like, and so I literally met Loper and Lucy when I was like,
wow,
19 or 20.
No shit.
And I was outside the expo selling programs. Like, hey, you want to buy a program for $15? Like, that was me.
Yeah.
And because of that, I got VIP tickets so I could go to the show.
Yes.
And I got a chance to get a Polaroid with Arnold, which I still have. Now, when I'm thinking I'm about to meet Arnold, I'm thinking we're about to chop it up. You were like a conveyor belt. Like, it's like they took a pic, handed it to you, he was gone. And I was like, wait, was that Arnold? So that was the first time, but I was in the room.
Yeah.
And see, the way my brain works, I'm like, well, if I'm in the room,
that's right.
Then that's where we start at. And then years later, I was at Easton. He had just brought out Total Recall, right?
What a great movie.
Great book. That was the book, Total Recall, but yeah, great movie too. And so he was like 3 hours late. I stood up there in line. Now, mind you, Muscle Pharm was doing $70 million in sales at the time. I'm standing in a line at Easton, waiting my turn to get my book signed by Arnold because we hadn't started working together yet. I was one of the main sponsors of the Classic, but you're
still standing in line.
Still, that's my point is like, you're not really owed anything, right? That was still the point I was at.
Yeah.
And so I'm standing in line. I get a chance to come up, and he's late, so he's kind of rushing. I have a picture of this too. It's pretty epic. And so he's signing, and as he gets to sign, I said, hey, Mr. Schwarzenegger, my company will do $70 million this year. I'm one of the main sponsors at the Classic. I just really appreciate everything you did. And he was like, as soon as I said $70 million,
yeah,
and then all of a sudden he was like, kind of give me like just even a couple seconds.
Yes.
But it was like different than everyone else's, right? I just kind of kept on going about my way. And then I found out, I was like, I should try to showcase some of my skill of like the actual like bodybuilding or just like my knowledge. So I started writing for Schwarzenegger.com. I connected with the people that were running it, which happened to be his main guy, Ketchel, who runs everything for him. And so I wrote a couple articles for Schwarzenegger.com that were really good.
Yeah.
They're really good if you know. Like, it's like one of them things, right? Because I studied that because I didn't have any other resources. So all of a sudden, I'm at the booth, and the Muscle Pharm booth was getting pretty big at that time. And somebody says, hey, so-and-so's over here coming to see you. I'm looking over, and I don't recognize who it is. I'm like, yo, what's up? It's Arnold's kid, Patrick.
No way.
And he's like, hey, my dad read the article on the website. He said I should come over and meet you. I was like, okay. I mean, and then that's kind of what started it. So what happened was I didn't realize Arnold read every article that was put up on his website, especially that had to do with the golden era. And I wrote something called Golden Era, like intensity or something.
Yeah.
And then I wrote a couple other things on the dumbbell pullover, basically things that only would be real if you really was about it.
Yes.
Very small. But so that was like part of the way I started getting a little bit of like interest where he started to know about me. And then years later, it was about a year and a half, 2 years later, we was on a golf course in Phoenix, like working with some investors or something. And they were like, hey, would you guys be interested in pitching Arnold to be your business partner?
Yeah.
I'm looking around like, yeah. And so Tom Arnold, the actor, is actually the one that set it up. He was friends of a friend. And
wow, that's crazy.
I go to Santa Monica with my business partner and some of the investors, and we get a chance to pitch Arnold, and it was like literally a scene from a movie.
How great of a guy is Tom Arnold, honestly?
Oh, he's fucking character.
He's fucking awesome, right?
So
he's such a nice guy.
So he came here shortly after that and did a set at the Funny Bone.
Yeah.
And me and my wife went up to it, and so we're in the line after, and everybody's meeting him or whatever. And he looks over at me. He's like, "Shit, this whole time I thought you was gay." That's what he said. When I said, hey, this is my wife, that's what he said. I was like, this motherfucker, like, dude, he's
so real,
bro.
Yeah, he's so real.
So real.
Yeah.
So I'll just never forget it because it was fucking hilarious, right? But that's Tom Arnold.
That is so funny. We had him in studio, Randy and I, and we got him talking about Roseanne.
Oh, dude.
And dude, he opened up so much. You have no idea. Like, he started crying on the radio. Like, it's like, he was so passionate and like real about it. He went so deep. I couldn't, I mean, it was just an interview. You know what I mean? I didn't really expect him to give all of that.
Well, you forget that like them together was so wild. And like, I remember him telling the story about how like he was on the weight. He's like, listen, Weight Watchers was going to pay us $10 million if we could lose weight. He's like, and I would come home and the time she like stabbed him in the leg with like a fucking knife, she ate all the Weight Watchers like ice cream sandwiches. Like, and that's like, he was telling me some shit like that, and I was dying. I was like, you're fucking.
Yeah, that's what it was. He had like real people problems, like that you wouldn't think of, like Hollywood and like one of the most famous comedians, and like he had like they had real fucking like Midwest shit going on.
He was awesome. I know the first time I got invited to go to Arnold's for Christmas.
Yeah,
I was in town shooting content for the business, and he was like, "Hey, why don't you come up to the house tonight? I'm having my Christmas party."
Yeah.
To me, I'm thinking like, I had like a button-up polo thing I bought at TJ Maxx. I got a hat that looks just like this. Like, I don't realize, bro, I get there, it's like A-list shit.
No
Everyone's
shit.
Dressed to the nine.
Oh, man.
And so I walk in there and I'm like, fucking, I know nobody but Arnold and Ketchel.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, that's how I started getting into cigars. I just hung out at the cigar place. Because at the end, everybody's there. That's what everyone, Arnold's like a big aficionado, right?
Sure.
So I see Tom Arnold. He's the only other person I know. He walks through. He's like, you look like you're jockeying a race tonight. I'm like, this motherfucker. He knew I was underdressed, and I looked out of place, and he's still fucking with me. It's pretty funny. So, but that night really showed me like, okay, not only am I in this room, I'm in this room.
Yeah.
And Stallone's walking through the front corridor. I seen Johnny Knoxville waiting on his car, Owen Wilson, like Arnold's like, he's famous in a room of famous people. Like, he's different, dude.
That's a different.
That's just the way to like say it. So it was like, it really gave me like, it was like one of those things where I sat down and I was smoking a cigar, which I still get cigars off these people. It was amazing. And I was like, I was just like, man, this is unbelievably wild that in this moment, this is my reality. And so I'm just super thankful. It's wild. But Arnold did a good job of like really like giving me difficult things to accomplish while I worked with them. He would really test you to see if what you got. And then he also, like, you know, when it all kind of fell apart at the end, we had breakfast. I was at Gold's Gym working out. I ran into him literally on accident. And he was like, hey, what do you want to come to breakfast? I'm like, yeah, of course, right? Go to breakfast. And he's like, man, this is what it comes down to. Not everything works out the way that you want it to. But is this are you like a one-hit wonder, or are you this guy? He's like, it's all how you respond, Cory. Like, I have things that hadn't worked out in my life and a lot of things that have worked out, but it's all how do you like get back up? And I was like, I already knew the answer. I'm a consistent winner, man. But is this are you like a one-hit wonder, or are you this guy? He's like, it's all how you respond, Cory. Like, I have things that hadn't worked out in my life and a lot of things that have worked out, but it's all how do you like get back up? And I was like, I already knew the answer. I'm a consistent winner, man. I'm a killer. Like, I know that about myself, but that was my biggest win to date. So I had to know, like, when it ain't the same the next day, like, what do you go and do?
Exactly.
And so I think that was just great advice for me.
Yeah. And you have to know yourself.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of the important takeaways is, like, you know, you could say you're a killer all day long, but if you don't believe it, you know, if I say it, you doubt it. If you say it, you believe it.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why I say it out loud, because I do believe it. And the reality is, like, people are so worried about being perfect all the time.
Yeah.
Perfection doesn't exist.
No fucking.
And so it's like, I'm never going to be known as perfect because I know it's not possible, but I can be known as a consistent person. And if I'm consistent, I get a chance to win. Yeah. I just want a chance for when the lights are on, that I get a chance to deliver, because you're not even guaranteed that when the lights are on, you're gonna get it.
Right.
And I've had a lot of things that haven't worked, and I've had a lot of things that have worked. And I've kind of like said, well, even when I'm losing, I look like I'm winning.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. And so I just have always moved forward with that approach, man. And it's 25 years later, we're here talking about it.
So what is your relationship today with Arnold?
So I usually see him a couple times a year.
Yeah.
You know, I was just out in LA. It was about a year ago because I'm helping Kyle Richards from the Real Housewives. And so I was out. I went to one of the tapings of the.
What do you mean helping?
I send her like her workouts and stuff. Like I'm cool. Kind of like her trainer online or whatever. I don't want to take all the credit. She looks amazing, but
that's sick.
But yeah, so it's pretty cool. I've been sending her workouts for probably about a year and a half or so. So I went out to one of the tapings of the Real Housewives, which was I've never been to, so that was kind of wild. And me and Morgan Wade, she was out there too. We went to Gold's and happened to run into Arnold and got to work out with him a little bit. And so, you know, it's real like. We just friends, man. So I see him. Sometimes I see him. Sometimes I don't. But it's like one of those things like, you know, when I wrote my book and I needed something, he'll approve it. He's good on it. He just know. He introduced me one time at Gold's Gym as a person that he trusts and knows how to work hard.
Yeah.
And I heard him say that. I wrote it down in my notes section, and that's like something I'll be always super proud of.
That is cool, man. I'll never forget. I was at Kroger and I walked in when you were on the cover of Muscle and Fitness magazine.
Oh yeah, Fitness RX. Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Yeah,
Fitness RX. Yeah. And I walked in and I was like, look at fucking Cory.
Me and my kids.
Yeah, that exactly. I came across the picture in my phone. You know, like you always have those, like, you know, like the memories or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, was that long ago? What was that, like 2014 or something?
What's crazy about that is this is like the craziest part of that whole like pitching Arnold story.
Yeah.
That was the cover on newsstands all over pretty much the world at that time. I never thought to bring it to the meeting, but one of the investors bought it at the airport and brought it.
No shit.
And during the meeting, he threw that to Arnold, and it kind of stopped the whole meeting. And Arnold looked at it and looked at me, and he was like, this is really cool. And then took the time to go through the whole spread, asked about the gym. You know, it changed. Like, this is the craziest part. There's a pull-out poster of like an ab poster. It's like a trifold that like I'm hanging up at the gym. He's looking at it. Now, mind you, we're in his office. When you go to the bathroom, you walk by the Conan sword. When you walk in, you see life-size Predator, life-size Mr. Freeze, a picture of every president that's ever been alive. Well, he's been like the True Lies plane, all of his bodybuilding trophies. Like, I'm talking like you're in it.
Yeah.
And I'm looking over and this man's looking at a poster of me. Like, it's like fairy tale land. And I'm like, my brain's melting when I'm watching this happen.
Cool. Yeah.
But that magazine and that diet phase was so difficult, Loper, that I remember how difficult it was, but how crazy I looked. And I was pushing so hard to be that guy. And I didn't even know the kid thing. That happened at the end. My kids just jumped in some pictures and they ended up using it on the cover. It was not planned. And so like it was like July of, maybe like 14 or something, or no, 12. And it's like my kid that's a sophomore in high school, he was probably like, maybe in 3rd or 4th grade then, like it's, or sophomore in college. Yeah, it was crazy. So either way, like that moment is probably something that, I'll never forget and was super impactful on my life. But all that work and that one moment, I think, made a huge difference of why he became our business partner.
So explain Max Effort to people that aren't aware. Like if they're watching this for the first time, like exactly what goes on the website and what can
so it's a 2-prong kind of approach in my business world now. It's like we have the Cory G Fitness app. And so that you can get on iOS, Android, whatever. I have all of the workouts that we do at the gym. And then all the diet plans, supplement articles. It's literally like essentially like my body of work of 25 years.
Wow.
You can have like the workouts that the 4 a.m. crew have done for the last 10 years. They're on there. Every month they were released for the last decade. So like we don't miss. Like Trayvon that's over here in the corner, Trey's there every morning at 4 a.m. with me capturing it. Like we've been doing this for years. And like it's such a point that when you get on there to say the value is worth $15 is like laughable. Like it's crazy town, right? There's thousands of people all over the world that is on that. Then you have Max Effort Muscle, which is the supplement brand, maxeffortmuscle.com. And that's where the products that go alongside with the workout. So they're 2 different businesses, right? Yeah. And so the like right now we're running a contest where the people from the app and the supplements kind of unite. And then, I give away some great prizes for transformations. We'll have about 1,000, 2,000 people do that. And then most people are subscribers of both. So they'll spend $99 on their supplements, $15 on their app. Really like for $115 a month, I can dramatically change somebody, dramatically, like really put them on a path.
Think about like what you spend $115 on every single month. I mean, the dumbest stuff, right?
Yeah.
But so do you give advice on how to do the workouts and take the supplements at the same time?
I literally tell people exactly what to do.
I think that's so important because people get, they'll go buy this and then they're like, well, what the fuck do I do with this?
I don't leave it up for guessing, man.
Yeah.
Literally when people come to me, I make people actually watch videos and learn stuff. And like my whole thing is I want to show you a quality, like healthy lifestyle so you just know it.
Yeah.
Once you know it, then you're choosing it. When you don't have the education around it, you might not know why you're drinking a pop for breakfast and all that type of shit, right? When I teach you what it looks like, you're deciding whether you want that or not.
Yeah, yeah.
I've changed thousands and thousands of people, tons of weight loss, all that kind of stuff. Like we've done some wild stuff.
Yeah.
The body of work's kind of crazy at this point. And so I have all the resources. So essentially, really, I'm a teacher, bro. Like I had these things happen to me. I learned these processes over years, and now I'm teaching them out as a dude who's still like living. So like I still drink beer on Friday and Saturday or bourbon. Like I still like to eat meals that aren't just like chicken and like green beans, like I'm still a dude that's trying to balance like being a dad of 3, being a person that's like not in competition ready all the time, so still like being a dude.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And so I think I'm the best person to teach my old self, somebody that wants to be elite, probably isn't going to compete, but then also you take your shirt off at the pool, you're gonna have to recognize there's some situation that's going on different over here. You know what I mean? And so that's
I love that. I mean, that's just a great way to put it.
Yeah, I mean that's just what it is, because really you're showing your discipline, whether you like it or not. Yes. You're displaying it. I'm in the business, so there's a certain amount that's required for me. I'm the professional.
Yeah.
So like when I have friends that do other things, like I just can't do this, I can't do that. I get that. It's not your job.
Right.
It's my job.
Yeah.
But there's still a level that, you're making this money, you're doing these things. Well, you got to have your shit together, man, so you can have good energy and go spend all this money you're creating, So that's the way I look at it, man. And it's like, I love what I do every day, and I have the resources where people can tap in. And I think it's very like a quality price too, most people can afford.
All right. Suggestion time. So 1 bourbon, 1 cigar. What would you say?
I would say bourbon. I'm a Buffalo Trace guy.
Ooh.
So I like Buffalo Trace, but then Eagle Rare is probably one of my favorites, which is like, I think the, more expensive version of a Buffalo Trace. I think it's in the same family. Don't hate on me if I got it wrong, but I'm pretty sure I got it right. I'm early in the bourbon. I'm mostly a Guinness guy.
Okay.
I get Guinness on tap at the house.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I've been drinking Guinness forever.
Well, you said you and your wife killed
a whole keg during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So Guinness is like, I've always been a dark beer guy, but then I got into bourbon over the last couple of years. We built like a cigar lounge at the office, and so I've been more into that. But I'm Buffalo Trace. And cigars, I would say like the White Monte Cristo is probably I'm still smoking most of the ones that I get from like the LA group that I met there.
Okay, what did we smoke at the Muscle Island party?
I think I gave you one of those good cigars because I was
really
getting
good, bro.
yeah,
Because I had that for like actually a couple of days after that.
Yeah, they don't really have a name, so they're just like there's some private rollers that deal with like Arnold and Stallone and those guys, and I have access to them, and so I just bring them in from now.
That's good.
Yeah, unbelievable. But
because you could like taste, just it almost tasted like bourbon or something.
Yeah.
Like when you're smoking it. You know?
It's just it's like a different quality, man. But the reality is, like I saw Steve Harvey say one time that smoking a cigar is like his yoga. I've kind of fucked with that because it's like one of those times where you can get a chance to sit down with some homies for an hour and a half, chop it up, and I think that's why I got onto that. And Arnold said something to me one time where I was at his house. We was drinking like some type of cognac and smoking cigars, and he was like, "It's okay to have a little dysfunction with all that discipline."
Oh, that's cool.
And I thought that was like, he's great for the one-liners, bro.
Is that right?
Oh, I mean,
Cory.
Yeah. Hey, so, and then, I'll always be like in crazy shape when I'm around him. So he knows I'm trying to keep it together. But he said some stuff like that to me one time, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So if people want to find you on the website and online, how do they find you?
Yeah, man. Everything's at Cory G Fitness, CORYG Fitness, online on all social channels, and then Max Effort Muscle for the supplements. Reach out. I still answer all my DMs on Twitter. That's cool. Facebook I'm not very good at, but on Instagram and Twitter I'm pretty solid. And I've been doing that for years. That's the other thing is, like, I take the approach, if you would walk in my gym and ask me a question, no matter where you're from, all over the world, I've just answered it the same way on social media. I've done it like that this whole time. So I think that's why I've been able to create good relationship with my people, man.
One of the most elite when it comes to fitness, not only fitness when it comes to the body, but fitness in the mind.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, man.
I think that's one thing that's like understated is like you got to work on both.
Yeah.
And every day I've been like trying to educate myself on the mental side, not just on the physical side. And I think that's what's starting to show up 20 years later. But it's important to kind of be mindful of both, truly.
I love it, man. Hey, thanks so much for coming by today,
Loper.
man.
Appreciate you.
And you guys, thanks so much for supporting the show. Hey, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Come on, give us a like and come back. Cory G, I'm Loper. Thanks so much for watching.